All right, good afternoon. We resume our council session this afternoon with an important presentation, and this is a proclamation recognizing Energy Efficiency Day and Energy Action Month by myself and the county executive. I know. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually going to yield to the county executive to make some opening comments, and we're happy to be doing this in partnership. So, Mr. County Executive.
So thank you. The number of years ago, the county passed requirements for us to eliminate greenhouse gases by 2035. And it requires us to take a very aggressive path to get there. And the county's done, I think, a lot of important things. I know this budget enabled us to actually provide the staffing support that we know we're going to need to provide as the government to help go through this transition. It gives us the tools to help residents and businesses to move forward. The council passed a budget that included $20 million that's going to help support loans for businesses, apartments, to make conversions to electric buildings. And so we've started down this path. I know this week the Fed committee took up the clean electric conversion bill that would require everything after 2024 to be built electric. So we're going down this path, and it's really important that we're going to be able to do this. Things are changing pretty quickly. Solar prices have come down. The price of electric cars has come down. And it's projected to come down further with additional advancements in batteries. So I would say that, people talk about how the arc of history bends. The arc of science is kind of bending in our favor, and the art of economics is beginning to bend in our favor. And things that looked incredibly difficult to achieve just when we passed that bill, 4 or 5 years ago, look much more possible to achieve now. So I'm excited about being here. This county is a leader in this work, and this is Energy Action Month, and so we're here to just talk about today. I noticed that my friend from Pepco is here. I will say that you all have been a lot more cooperative over the last couple of years, and I appreciate the willingness of Pepco to work with us to help make this transition. I think everybody gets that we can't go on the way we are, and doing nothing is not enough. And half measures, we're going to run out of time to make a meaningful difference. And so we're doing everything we can as a county to push the envelope on change. And I'm just really happy to be here to be part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. That was well said. And it's important to acknowledge. And there's so much that we can and should do at the local level of government in partnership with our utilities, our private sector, our community-based organizations. And I have 4 kids. And we often around the dinner table will talk about different policies that we're debating on the council. And climate change is a topic that my children are always interested in discussing. They are seeing the news just as we are. They are literally absorbing what is happening to our planet. And so this has to be the priority that this council and this county executive has made it, and we look forward to partnering together for many more years to come. So with that, we have a proclamation. Why don't we invite everyone who's here, and I can kick us off, and then we'll turn it over to the county executive. So whereas Montgomery County has celebrated Energy Action Month since 2016, and this year, in alignment with our climate goals to cut greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2027 and 100% by 2035, we are focusing on electrifying everything. And?
Can I use it? Yes, of course. I have not memorized everything. Okay, whereas electrifying everything promotes replacing fossil fuels with wind, solar, hydroelectric vehicles, heat pumps, and an electric grid that allows a two-way transfer of energy, and
whereas energy efficiency is the cheapest and cleanest way to meet Montgomery County's energy needs, avoid pollution, and reduce utility bills for residents and businesses, and
Whereas smarter energy use helps to avoid power plant emissions that can harm our health, pollute our air, and warm our climate. And
why don't I read the next two? These are short sentences, and then I'll turn it over to the county exec for the last two. And whereas many income qualifying households experience an energy burden and are more sensitive to changing demands and the cost of utility services, and whereas cutting energy waste saves U.S. households billions of dollars on utility bills every year, and
whereas building energy benchmarking and energy performance standards have been adopted to tackle emissions in the commercial and multifamily building sectors, and whereas residents of Montgomery County can contribute to our energy efficiency efforts by visiting montgomeryenergyconnection.org and participating in Empower Maryland programs by scheduling quick home energy checkups and home performance with Energy Star audits.
now therefore be resolved that Mark Elridge as county executive and myself as council president join a nationwide network of energy groups and partners to hereby proclaim October 2022 Energy Action Month in Montgomery County and urge residents to join us in acting on energy efficiency during Energy Action Month and in the future. Signed on this 18th day of October by the county executive and myself. All right. Take a picture.
Thank you all.
All right, we will now recess until 1:30. All right, can we get a countdown?
We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. We now resume our council session for today. We move on with item number 7, which is a public hearing. This is a public hearing regarding WSSE's Water's FY24 spending control limits. A Transportation and Environment Committee work session is tentatively scheduled for October 24th. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on October 19th. There are no speakers for this public hearing. Nope. Oh, okay. There looks like there is a speaker for this public hearing. Nope. sorry, we don't have anybody officially on the list that has registered to speak. Okay, why don't you come forward? Yep. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened. That?
Sir, what's your name, please?
Okay. All right, thanks, Gordy. You have 2 minutes to testify. It's the button by the microphone. At the base. There you go.
Thank you. I'm glad I don't do this too often. Gordy Burney with the Taxpayers League. Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about spending control limits for WSSC. Every year we caution you to do more to control spending and lower rates. That hasn't worked very well. Debt increased 29% in the last 5 years. And spending's at a record high, even though customers are consuming less water per capita. Now we're on the brink of a recession, which could clobber WSSC reserves, increase debt service costs, and risks taxpayer bailout. We know you're not financial or utility experts, but we want you to consult independent experts before you approve this plan. First of all, spending control limits don't control spending. They control revenues. WSSC rates are double Fairfax for families of 4 or more people who can least afford rate increases. Last year's state survey of benchmarks comparing WSSC to Fairfax County and others showed WSSC spends recklessly while ignoring soaring lost water, now at 20%, an all-time high. Interest rate and liquidity risks are high, making next year a bad time to increase spending with only 3 months or less of reserves to pay bills once the cash flow runs out. For years now, the Taxpayers League's been warning you that there were significant rate and fee increases coming as far as the eye could see. WSSC now agrees and has proposed an 8% increase for next year, an 8% increase for the year following, and a to-be-determined 5% increase for the following years. WSSC's favorable reviews with rating agencies are good as long as the taxpayers are on the hook to bail them out. Fitch has a negative outlook on them. Now we're facing recession risks, and WSSC has very little solvency to deal with deep recession. Please tie any rate or fee increase to completion of an independent review of stress tests of assumptions in the long-term financial plan. Please also develop a contingency plan with the state to bolster working capital and avoid a taxpayer bailout if the plan fails. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. There are no more speakers for this public hearing, and so this public hearing is now closed. We move on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 8. This is a public hearing on Bill 2622, Landlord-Tenant Relations, Radon Testing and Mitigation Required. This bill would require radon testing in rental housing, require disclosure and mitigation of radon hazards above a certain action level, include lease requirements for certain rental units, and generally amend laws regarding landlord-tenant relations in the county. A Fed committee work session is tentatively scheduled for October 24th. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on October 19th. We do have speakers for this public hearing, and our first speaker is Asim Nagam.
Good afternoon, Council President Albanaz and Council members. My name is Asim Nagam, Director of DHCA. I'm here on behalf of the County Executive in support of Bill 26-22, which prioritizes tenant safety and health by reducing exposure to high radon levels in the rental housing market. Radon is an odorless, invisible radioactive gas that occurs from the decay of uranium and can easily enter homes and buildings through cracks, openings in the foundation, and other pathways. The primary health risk associated with chronic indoor radon exposure is an increased lifetime risk of lung cancer. According to EPA, long-term exposure to radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer and the #1 cause among non-smokers. In addition, EPA studies have identified Montgomery County as Zone 1, meaning that it has the highest potential of indoor radon levels at or above EPA 4.0 action level. The county executive supports Bill 26-22 22 as it prioritizes the health and well-being of Montgomery County tenants, which make up approximately 40% of our community, and provides a reasonable, focused approach to addressing a critically important environmental health issue. The executive looks forward to working with the sponsor and the committee on any amendments. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Vili Aremper.
Good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Vili Ranpur, and I'm the Vice Chair of Public Policy Committee for GCAR. I'm testifying today on behalf of 11,000 members of our Greater Capital Association of Realtors. Our association is supportive of the Bill 2622, radon testing and mitigation, with amendments to the bill as introduced. I would like to start by thanking Councilmember Rice for reaching out to GCAR while putting this bill together. Anytime we as advocates and industry professionals can bring our expertise to the table to help council with legislative work, better results are brought to bear. One of our mission statements as Realtor organization is that we advocate professional and ethical service to public and members. Promoting and protecting the health and safety of our residents, our property managers, and housing providers is paramount. And we appreciate Councilmember Rice's legacy of ensuring our committee is safe, our community is safe from radon in their homes. We believe there's a path forward on this bill that upholds the importance of providing safe housing while maintaining a fair increase in cost and responsibility on property managers and housing providers. GCAR has suggested 2 amendments to present to the council on this bill. The first would exempt properties with active radon mitigation systems from further testing. The second would ensure testing does not become a nuisance used against properties. We also stand with AOBA in their 5 amendments and ask that you amend the bill as they recommend. Our amendments will be included in the full testimony provided to council. Thank you for your consideration of our association's perspective. With these suggested amendments included, we believe this legislation will better serve all the residents as well as the goal of the bill. We look forward to our continued work towards bringing safe and reliable housing to everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Ryan Washington.
There we go. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Council. My name is Ryan Washington. I serve as Government Affairs Manager for the Apartment Office Building Association of Metropolitan Washington. I'm here to testify in support with amendments on Bill 2622. Before I begin, I would love to just express our appreciation for the bill's sponsor for working with us throughout the summer and just ensuring that he listens to our concerns. We are appreciative. We still have just some friendly amendments that will improve the intent of the bill and provide more flexibility for our members to effectively treat, test, and remediate elevated radon levels on apartment communities. We are very supportive of GCAR's amendments on top of our amendments, including providing that we test a certain sample percentage of properties on the ground level, preferably 20%. We're willing to work with the bill sponsor just so, because, for example, whenever there is an issue with radon detected in, say, apartment unit 104, it's likely going to be tested in 102. So having that the ability to randomly sample a certain percentage of units will be more flexible for our members to treat. And I'd like to continue to have those dialogues with the bill sponsor as we move forward with the work session. If you have any questions, you can always refer to our testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Lawrence Seif. Cool.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Lauren Steep, and I'm the Vice President of Radilec, a radon equipment manufacturer based in Frederick. We were founded in Maryland over 30 years ago, and in that time have become one of the major manufacturers for professional-grade radon detection equipment in the United States and around the world. Radilec supports Bill 26-22, although with the following suggested amendments. We recommend that the acceptable mitigation threshold be increased from 2 to 4 picocuries per liter in order to align itself with the current EPA recommended action limit. In 1986, when the EPA defined this action limit, it recognized that the vast majority of homes can be reduced below this level in a financially feasible manner. The same cannot always be said for reducing radon concentrations below 2 picocuries per liter, which may be cost prohibitive for a sizable percentage of structures. In rare circumstances, it can even be difficult and expensive to mitigate below the 4 picocurie per liter action limit. In such scenarios, we suggest that the council allow radon testers to measure and mitigate according to the structure's working levels. Historically, the EPA has defined this exposure limit at 0.02 working levels, which is equivalent to 4 picocuries per liter at a 50% equilibrium ratio of radon gas to its decay products. Whereas picocuries measure radon's rate of decay, working levels measure the concentration of radon's decay products, which are the radioactive elements formed from the decay of radon. This is important because the primary health risk comes not from radon itself, but rather from the radioactive decay of its solid progeny, which readily attach to lung tissue. When a structure cannot be feasibly reduced below 4 picocuries per liter, allowing mitigators the option to lower the radon decay products below 0.02 will significantly reduce the health risk from ionizing radiation and provide radon professionals with additional tools to increase public health and well-being. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers for this public hearing, and so this public hearing is now closed. We move on to the next item on the agenda, and we will now sit as the district council. And we start with item A, which is a work session on zoning text amendment ZTA 2201, antenna and existing structures use standards. Fed committee recommends approval with amendments. I'll turn it over to the chair of the Fed committee to make some opening comments, unless he wants to defer directly to staff.
Sorry, I was thinking about radon for a moment there. And well, first of all, that was a very interesting science. I wouldn't say lecture, but it brought me back, and it was interesting information. And I also couldn't help but catch the phrase ionizing radiation, because we are often overly often dealing with non-ionizing radiation here in Montgomery County, and you can see how when you have ionizing radiation, you have an actual scientific set of facts relating to health and mitigation, and when you have non-ionizing radiation, we often get a lot of imagination. Okay, so trying to get my computer open here. I'm filibustering. What was the ZTA we were discussing?
Ionizing radiation.
My Z. I know which one. I have like 3 right now. I really apologize. Okay, thank you.
2201, and
I was in the target zone.
yeah.
Thank you. So I will pass it over to staff here in a moment. But this zoning text amendment ensures that antennas can be placed on existing utility poles, light poles, and that the telecommunications companies aren't incentivized to install new poles for all of their needs, which we would not want. I live on a block with 10 utility poles. I would be just fine if antennas were placed on some of those poles, but I would prefer that to 4 or 5 new poles coming into my block, crowding into the 10 that are already there. This zoning text amendment is resolving that problem, which was not foreseen in the previous amendments. And very broadly, it's all helping this county do what every other jurisdiction around that we would care to compare ourselves to is already done, long ago. DC, Baltimore, all the Northern Virginia jurisdictions, Howard County, Baltimore City, Prince George's County, you name it. They've all done this long ago, and we have continued to struggle, and I hope that this time we can just move smoothly through. And we've taken this up at committee. We've worked through a number of additional revisions, and we've got a committee package for our consideration. So I don't know if any of my colleagues from the committee would care to make an observation or a comment. If not, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Council President, and we'll hear from council staff as we work our way through.
Thank you, Ms. Nadeau. We'll just go ahead and turn it directly over to you.
So the CTA was introduced on February 8th. So today is just work session and action is scheduled for next week. Quick reminder to the council here that next Tuesday, the 25th, is the last day for this council to enact any zoning changes. So any amendments to today's ZTA, and actually the ZTAs we're doing the rest of it today, would need to be acted on by next week. Otherwise, they have to be fully reintroduced in order for the new council to consider them. So I want to put that at the top as we discuss and think about and work through amendments. So as noted, we had a public hearing on September 13th. We received a lot of testimony, had a lot of speakers, both in opposition and support. To summarize, the opposition testified that the approval process doesn't have enough public input. There was testimony about health effects, whether the technology is obsolete, and then questions about impacts on the environment, specifically pollinators and tree canopy. Also received a lot of testimony, particularly written testimony in support, that testified, a lot of small businesses, in fact, about how this infrastructure could support businesses such as fire and police, increase connectivity, and as Chair Reamer noted, encourage co-location as well. So going through the ZTA itself, so I'm sure you all remember ZTA 1907 telecommunications towers from last year. So this is a completely separate use. This is antenna on existing structure. So the way this use works is it's one or more antennas and they're attached to a structure that already exists. If you see on page 3 of the memo, the definitions there, that can include a building, a transmission tower, a monopole, a water tank, a barn, a sign. Almost always, these applications are to attach to the top of a utility pole. So there'll be a lot of discussion about how certain amendments affect utility poles. So the intent of this ZTA is because of 1907 last year. Well, let me rewind. I'll do a little bit of a history lesson here. So last year when 1907 was introduced, it was introduced at 60 feet. And then the Fed Committee and Council, after that ZTA passed, the setback was reduced from 60 feet to 30 feet. The antenna on existing structure setback has always been 60 feet. So what this ZTA does is it puts the two in sync. Because that wasn't in the original ZTA last year, it would have always needed a separate ZTA because it is a different use. So that's the background of I know there's been a lot of questions of how did we get here, so that's the how we got here. As a refresher, on page 4, I have a picture and a definition of what a small cell antenna is, because I know it's very technical. It's got lots of different pieces. There's the building equipment, there's the antenna itself. So this is about the antenna, not the entire tower or the entire pole. So next up, I'm going to do a brief history of the federal law as you consider this. As a reminder, Congress has explicitly preempted the county from considering any regulations related to RF frequencies and health issues. There was a federal case last year. The decision came out August 2021, so about a month after 1907 passed. What the DC Circuit Court found there is that the FCC did need to consider these non-cancer health effects, and they remanded for the FCC to do so. They did not give the FCC a deadline for doing so. As we know, the way the federal government moves, last I heard, I don't even know if the FCC has been fully reappointed yet, so unclear when those new considerations would take into effect. The court did also specifically note that it was not making a decision or taking a position on the scientific debate, just saying they wanted the FCC to look into it. Notwithstanding all of that, that does not reverse the original small cell order, and local jurisdictions still cannot consider health effects, even though the FCC has been asked to do so. 1907 as well, a major piece of that was that before the council passed that ZTA, both council staff and the county attorney's office and many other brilliant legal minds, more than me, agreed that if there wasn't a change, there was a material prohibition of service. That was a big impetus last year with 1907. Full disclosure, council staff's belief is we don't necessarily have that same issue here, because right now a provider could put up a new telecom tower. Of course, a provider's attorney could still make that argument, but in agreement with the county attorney's office, it'd be a tougher argument to make because we're not materially prohibiting it. It's just changing which use you can use. But without this change, what could happen right now is the telecom tower setback is 30 feet. And the antenna on existing structure setback is 60 feet. So right now a provider could say, well, I was going to put this antenna on an existing structure, but I can't because it's 60 feet away. So instead, I'm going to put it on the street light that's 30 feet away. And that is the issue that this ZTA is intended to address. So the Fed committee held 2 robust work sessions on this. At the first work session, went through everything I just said. And then there were 2 questions. First, Councilmember Jawando had asked for an update on how many of these applications are we seeing. The ZTA has been passed for a year now, wanted more information. So the Office of Broadband submitted that data. The spreadsheet is attached to your packet. There have been about 44 applications for small cell antennas. Half of those have been in the agricultural or residential zones, because quick reminder, both this ZTA and last year's were about the agricultural and residential zones, not commercial, which was done a few years ago. And of those, about 40 are for antenna on existing structure. So that spreadsheet's in there as well as just an update of what's happened since last year. And then at the second work session, the Fed committee went through several amendments proposed by Councilmember Friedson. So if there's no questions, I will move to the amendments next. Okay. So one of the first questions that was raised is, how do we measure setbacks? So the zoning code has a definition for what a setback is, but there was concern from the community that the setback would be measured at an angle. To bring you back to math class, imagine a triangle, you've got your hypotenuse. If it's measured at an angle, then you end up closer to the house. So DPS submitted a memo confirming in writing that is not how the county measures setbacks. So if you're standing with your feet right up against the back of your house and you walk exactly 30 feet out and then you look exactly straight up, the edge of the equipment for the antenna, that is where it will start. So it will never be closer than that 30 feet, including all the equipment around the antenna itself. To clarify this, the original drafts of the ZTA did just say the antenna. One proposed amendment by the Fed committee is every time it says antenna, specify antenna on existing structure, because the definition includes the related equipment. So that saves you a couple inches, so you don't say the antenna is 30 feet, but the enclosure is slightly further. So that's the first amendment put forth by the Fed committee.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nadeau. So my son, who often complains that he'll never use what he's learning in math, this is evidence that that is not accurate. So,
I specifically became a lawyer to never do math, and I think every week I come here and give you math. So.
All right. Councilmember Friedson had a question or comment.
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad we're here talking about asymptotes. I'm at least slightly better at asymptotes than I was at the radon science. So, in relation to what I'm less of an expert on. I just thought it was important at a high level just to explain to colleagues the rationale behind the series of amendments, because they're all basically under the same umbrella. So I thought it might be helpful, since colleagues weren't in the Fed committee, to have the discussion. But essentially, 1907, we worked quite hard as a committee and as a council to put forward a number of mitigations. And really the rationale of this particular zoning text amendment is to have parity with 1907. And the reality was, as it was introduced, those mitigations that we had spent lots of work sessions introducing to provide mitigations based on aesthetics that the council is able to do weren't in place. And so we went through to the extent that we could, and I want to thank Ms. Nadeau for her work to try to create that level of parity between 1907 that we already passed and this zoning text amendment. And so these series of amendments are really all in that same spirit to create parity between the two so that we are accomplishing what is the stated objective of the zoning text amendment that's before us. I just wanted to provide that context. The specifics of how to do that are very technical, but the rationale behind it broadly is quite simple. So I'll yield back. Thanks.
Thank you. That was helpful. Ms. Nadeau.
One additional amendment that council staff realized in drafting the amendments Fed Committee recommended and then received a couple letters about as well. So ZTA, or the intent on existing structure section, uses the term dwelling. So all the measurements are from a dwelling. When 1907 was passed, the phrase used was a building intended for human occupation, which is obviously a broader term. So one amendment that council staff is putting forward now is to just use the same language that was used in 1907.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Reamer, seconded by Councilmember Friedson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, Councilmember Katz.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to note that I voted in favor against 1907. I'm not in favor of 2201 as well, though I do believe these amendments, if this does pass, which I believe it will, if this does pass, make it a better piece of legislation. So I will vote in favor of the amendments, but ultimately will not vote in favor of the legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion. Oh, Councilmember Hucker.
I've, like Councilmember Katz, voted on this topic many times. My other employer previously didn't have a position on it. It recently joined the successful lawsuit in the D.C. Court of Appeals, so I have to reluctantly recuse myself. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have an amendment on the table with all those in favor, please raise your hands. And that is unanimous among all those that can vote, and we have one recusal. All right, Ms. Nadeau.
So next is preferential placement language. So this was the language from 1907 where the pole and the tower, the preference was for them to be placed at intersections, not near right-of-ways, and most importantly, not in front of people's front doors. The exact language was if you're going from the edge of your front door 5 feet out from either side, so that the tower is not directly in front of you. So the way this language was amended for the antenna on existing structure, basically changed the term replacement pole to antenna, otherwise very similar language. One thing the Fed Committee did discuss at length is the antenna on existing structure use has been in the zoning code for a while and has always been 60 feet. And this preferential placement language never applied to the providers. So there was a question of whether, obviously any antennas on existing structure that are already there would be grandfathered in, but for future ones that were 60 feet or back, this would be a change from how things were done before, even though that's not where the setback was changing. So after a robust discussion from the Fed Committee, the decision was 90 feet, because the consideration here is that the council, because you can't consider health effects, is really talking about aesthetic requirements. So this preferential placement language will exist from 30 feet to 90 feet, and that is the next Fed Committee amendment. Real quick. Council staff was contacted by some industry representatives after Fed Committee recommended this amendment, and their concern was because of the width of a street and how close front doors are, if you can't be 5 feet out in front of a front door, then you are really limiting where you can place these antennas, because anywhere you go, you're going to hit a front door, either on your side of the street or across the street. as Councilmember Jawando had pointed out, during that Fed session, the way this language is drafted, the applicant can submit an affidavit that says this is the best location to put it, or I couldn't get permission from the property owner. So the industry just wanted me to convey to you that DPS might get a lot of those affidavits because of this restriction in the smaller street neighborhoods. The next issue the Fed committee addressed is pole proliferation. So the amendment here is that antenna must be at least 150 feet from the nearest antenna from the same provider. So AT&T, their next one, has to be 150 feet over. That does mean there couldn't be different providers in between, but each provider should be spread out 150 feet. The Fed committee decided not to place that 90-foot limit on this amendment, so that is the pole proliferation language before the council. Oh, also, during the Fed committee work session, Chair Reamer had asked what zones this would apply in. So this section would apply to the rural residential, and planned unit development zones. The next amendment is about removal. So the idea here is once the antenna is deactivated, we get a lot of complaints from residents that they're not being taken down. In speaking to DPS and Tower Committee, typically you're replacing one with the other, but there could be a situation where you deactivate one and aren't putting another one up. DPS said that the issue here is you need to issue a right-of-way permit because often these are on utility poles in order to go in and remove it. But DPS assured the committee that they could do that within 30 days. So the amendment is if the antenna on an existing structure is deactivated, it must be removed within 30 days. Next, so this is a bit of a trickier one. There was a lot of discussion about what restrictions can be placed on height here. So a few concerns up front. So first, utility poles. The county doesn't issue building permits for utility poles. It's controlled by the Public Service Commission. We don't control the height of a utility pole. All of that is state law. So the question would be, if you're placing a height limit for the antenna on the existing structure, does that bump up against what the utility owner is allowed to do? In reaching out and discussing, I should have said up front, DPS, Planning, Crown Castle, and PEPCO are all here if you have questions for them. So especially this piece because it's very specific to how the utility poles operate. But there's a lot of safety requirements in terms of where equipment is placed on a utility pole for the safety of the workers and the safety of the public, because there's more equipment than just small cell antennas on utility poles. Lots of different equipment can be on there, and you have to make sure electric circuits are a certain distance from each other. You want everything to be safe. So the Fed committee's decision here was not to regulate the height of where the antenna on existing structure can be placed. However, there was a concern about tree canopies. So an amendment here is an amendment similar to what was proposed by Councilmember Navarro for ZTA 1907 to include that tree loss minimization language that basically asked the county executive to include tree loss minimization language in the franchise and license agreements. I want to note this is non-binding language because it's not in the zoning code. It's more something the council is directing the executive to try to do. And that amendment is on page 10. And I believe Councilmember Friedson had an additional question about height.
Yeah, thank you for that. Following our committee session, there was some residents had reached out asking about harmonizing the height provisions of 2201 and 1907, and the question was specifically raised about the 30 to 60 feet. And I know, Ms. Nadeau, you're aware of this, and just wanted to get your perspective on that. But basically the question was between 30 and 60 feet. The height is above what the heights would have been allowed under 1907, and so the question is whether a similar waiver and objection process here would be appropriate in order to accomplish the goal of parity between the two. And so I was just hoping you could speak to that. I think it would be helpful for colleagues at least to be aware.
Of course. So first, I want to acknowledge that yes, it is true. The antenna on existing structure ends up being, it can be significantly higher than a telecom tower, which is what 1907 dealt with, because a utility pole is typically taller than a street light. And the antenna on existing structure, the pole's already there, the barn's already there, whatever the existing structure is, it already exists. Because of a lot of the technical specifications for safety and other requirements where an antenna can be placed, oftentimes the antenna on existing structure does end up being placed on top of the utility pole, which makes the entire utility pole higher. So the concern from the community here was these antenna on existing structure, if you look at the entire thing, including the structure, does end up being higher than what was passed in 1907. But again, the issue here is it is a bit tricky to regulate the height of the utility pole itself. Another thing is it's a bit like apples and oranges. So 1907 did create a waiver and objection process as well as a conditional use process, but the conditional use process was only for setbacks under 30 feet. So what could happen here is if the council were to adopt an amendment that did that, you'd almost be undermining the intent of the ZTA, because you could have a provider say, well, I was going to use the antenna on existing structure that's 45 feet from the home, but you're limiting the height. So instead, I'm going to construct a whole new telecom tower that ends up being closer but lower. So that would kind of force the provider to choose between setback versus height. So that's one concern with the amendment. The others are, again, how much you want to regulate utility poles. The way the waiver and objection process worked, 1907 had a much more complicated application process as well. So the providers for telecommunications towers had to provide an alternative location up front. They had to send out notice to everybody within 300 feet. So if that amendment were to be added here, you would need to do that because, again, the only thing the hearing examiner would be able to decide is this location or that location. So those are I'm hoping that addresses that amendment. So next up is maintenance. So for this amendment, this basically is going to require the antenna owner to maintain the antenna in a safe condition, remove graffiti, repair any damage to the facility. Just want to note here, again, this is only for the antenna on existing structure. You could have a case where the entire utility pole has graffiti, but this is only requiring the antenna owner to remove it. There was some debate. Would Pepco and Crown Castle work together? Hey, I'm up here cleaning this thing. Do you want me to help you by cleaning your property as well? In speaking to Crown Castle after the Fed committee work session, the issue is they have to get a right-of-way permit for the property they own, so it might actually be a little difficult to do that. But notwithstanding, the amendment is for the antenna owner to have to maintain that antenna in safe and clean condition. And the last thing that was discussed by the Fed committee, there's no amendment here, but in going through comparing 2201 and 1907, one big difference is this piece about notice. Again, that's because 1907 has conditional use and waiver of objection and other processes where antenna on existing structure is limited use. And the point of limited use is you meet these requirements, we let you have that use. So one potential notice could be putting a sign on the property. Gets a bit tricky because the property is typically in a right-of-way. So you're putting a sign in the right-of-way. I know we just passed the ZTA that rewrote the sign section of the zoning code that had a lot of restrictions and information on putting signs in the right-of-way. One issue that was raised to me by DPS actually was that if you think about a sign, it's just stakes in the ground. And so if there's bad weather or the sign blows around, if it's in the right of way, there isn't somebody monitoring it the way there is if someone's doing work on their own property and can see the sign every day. Also, DPS sends out inspectors to look at the sign, so there'd be a cost factor there. But if the council really wanted notice, that would be the way to do it. But the Fed committee did not recommend that at this time. But there was a lot of concern about making sure notice was provided. So I just wanted to note that the Tower Committee does list all applications for this use. In addition, the agendas and minutes also on the Tower Committee website. And even more than that, there are links at the bottom of the packet where you can provide comments to the Tower Committee for any applications, and you can sign up to receive notifications every time there is a new application. So if there's someone who's concerned about small cell antennas, they can sign up for that list and get all the notice. That being said, Tower Committee is not a public forum. You can submit information, but there's no testimony from the public. And that is all, unless there are questions.
Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, this is just a point of clarification. Going back to the part 2, the preferential placement, and I may have missed it in your description, but I just want to make sure that the amendment, we clarify that the amendment, in the description, it reads, the Fed Committee recommends applying the preferential placement language to antennas at a setback up to 90 feet. I think the draft language of the amendment just says located at 90 feet, and I just want to make sure that we formally adjust that language before moving it forward.
Yes, thank you. So it should say located 90 feet or less from a dwelling, so that you're capturing all of those antennas.
Right. Not
Yes.
exactly. If you do 89 or 91 feet, then you wouldn't follow it. Okay. So
Yeah.
if I need to, I don't know, I think it's just a clerical, but if we
I
need
was
to
going
move
to call
it,
it
we
a
can.
clerical correction, because that was my bad, that the Fed Committee did ask for 90 feet or less.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to note that for the record. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. This one is just a work session, so we won't be voting on this today, but we will be prepared to vote on it next week. We now move on to the next work session, which is in action, and this is regarding zoning text amendment 2203, downtown Silver Spring overlay zone. Fed Committee recommends approval with amendments. Councilmember Reamer.
All right, thank you. This is implementing the Silver Spring Master Plan that we approved not too long ago, and this is, our overlay zones are intended to implement our previous policy decisions, so there should be nothing substantial that is new. Sometimes there's a correction or two in order to fulfill the intent of the master plan. So with that, I will turn it to Lavu and Pam.
So, as you remember, the Fed Committee held, I believe it was 8 work sessions on the Silver Spring Plan, and then the Council had 3 work sessions, and it was approved on May 26th. So what the ZTA does is implement what was in that plan. So the way that introduction works when a ZTA comes from the Planning Board is we'd actually received a ZTA that matched the Planning Board draft. So Planning Board looked at it again after the plan was approved to make sure that it's consistent with what Council actually wants to see in the plan. So some of the changes that have to be made was removing the height incentive area, modifying the downtown Silver Spring density so that residential density was the $5 per square foot, and non-residential was $3 per square foot. Clarifying that projects exceeding 15% MPDUs are eligible for additional height, not removing structured parking as a category of public benefit points, adding language that would ensure that there's diversity and community participation in the design advisory panel, and then clarifying that the Planning Board will make the determination of park contributions in lieu of open space. So that was the first batch of amendments to just make it consistent with the plan as approved. Next, the Planning Board had recommended and Fed Committee agreed allowing developments that have at least 25% MPDUs to not have to make the residential DSS density payment. This is how it works in the Bethesda overlay, and it also satisfies the intent to make sure that we have MPDUs in mixed-use areas. So that was the second amendment from the Fed Committee. And then lastly, there were 2 minor amendments for clarification. First, removing the phrase raising of roosters is not allowed from urban farming because that's never allowed for urban farming. And then next, clarifying that the additional height for buildings that are recommended at 300 or 360 feet in the plan, that those should be approved under the optional method development. So just clarifying how that process would work. And those are the amendments for the ZTA.
Okay. I don't see any other questions or comments from colleagues, and we do have a Fed Committee recommendation, so we can go straight to the roll call vote.
Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Mr. Giwando?
Yes.
Mr. Giwando votes yes. Mr. Reamer?
Yes.
Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Hooker votes yes. Ms. Navarro? Ms. Navarro votes yes. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson?
Yes.
Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Glass?
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Albornoz?
Yes.
Mr. Albornoz votes yes.
All right, let the record show that passes unanimously. And we move on to the final work session in action. This is on sectional map amendments H146 to implement the approved and adopted Silver Spring downtown and adjacent communities plan. Ms. Dunn, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Good afternoon and thank you. As you know, after the council adopts and takes action on a master plan, it's followed by a sectional map amendment which will implement the zoning that is recommended in that plan. Planning staff usually takes a few months to go through very carefully every piece of property in that plan and to map out what that sectional map amendment looks like. It's numerous pages and numerous maps that were provided in the staff report packet. There was one minor technical correction that we were alerted to by one of the property owners. That's been corrected in this version. And there were a couple notes that are also attached to this SMA where planning staff found that there were a handful of split zoned properties. It's usually fairly unique, but with so many properties in the downtown area, not surprising that they found some of these as they went through the sectional map amendment process. They are noted in the SMA. It is really just a way to say this SMA is extremely detailed oriented, provides very accurate zoning and accurate zoning that is reflective of what the council did with respect to the plan. So that is before the council. I don't know if there's any questions.
I don't see any questions. So this is a roll call vote, but there was no committee recommendation, correct?
Correct. Typically we'll go to committee if we've received testimony. There was no testimony for this SMA.
Okay, then I need a motion to accept this action.
So moved.
Second.
By Councilmember Joanna, seconded by Councilmember Friedson. Now we can go to the roll call vote.
Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Mr. Juando?
Yes.
Mr. Juando votes yes. Mr. Reamer?
Yes.
Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Hucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hucker votes yes. Ms. Navarro?
Yes.
Ms. Navarro votes yes. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson?
Yes.
Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Glass?
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Albornoz?
Yes.
Mr. Albornoz votes yes.
All right, let the record show that passes unanimously as well. And that concludes us sitting as the district council. And we move on to the final item on the agenda. I need a motion to go into closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice pursuant to Maryland Code General Provisions, Article 3305B7 and 3305B8 to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. Topic is pending litigation involving the county.
So moved.
Moved by Council Vice President Glass, seconded by Councilmember Hucker. All those in favor, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. We will now go into closed session, and with that, we are adjourned for today. Thank you all very much.